All right, hello everyone, and welcome to AP Stats. So we are going to look at Chapter 1 in this video. Will be pretty short. We're just going to look at the introduction to statistics, the science and art of data. I have my calculator up. We'll see if we need it, but it's just used to it for me. So here we go. So in this little video, we'll be able to identify the individuals and variables in a data set or in a set of data, and classify variables as categorical or quantitative. So, first thing, statistics is the science and art of collecting, analyzing, and drawing conclusions from data. And it really is kind of an art in the process that you do it. An important vocabulary word is just an individual is an object described in a set of data. Now, individuals are not just people. They can be people. They can be animals, things. Maybe talk about cars or household sizes or there's anything can kind of be an individual. It's just what you're taking data of. And in that of that individual, you're probably concerned about a variable. And a variable is an attribute that can be taken different values from different individuals. So if the individual is like people, the attribute might be, or the variable we're talking about is their height or their weight or their eye color, something like that. The individual is the thing, the variable is what about that thing we are going to measure. Now there's two types of variables. The first one's categorical and the second is quantitative. And they kind of are what the words mean, at least for categorical. Categorical variables assign labels that place each individual into a particular group called a category. Quantitative variables take number values that are quantities, counts, or measures. So really categorical are something that you can put into like a group. Quantitative is a number you would assign to. So like I said, variable, categorical, or quantitative. Now if it's quantitative, there's actually two types. One is discrete and the other is continuous. I'll give some examples here. So categorical variable might be eye color, like I said. So you have blue, green, brown, maybe hazel if you want to put it in there. So it's a category and you'd fit into there. You wouldn't assign it a number or anything like that. Maybe another one would be car color is pretty common. Let's see. Gender is pretty often used as categorical. Maybe uh, your origin, so what country you come from. Those will all be categories that you put people in. Quantitative, on the other hand, are numbers. So, like I said earlier, was how tall you are or how much you weigh. Could be some quantitative. Other ones would just be kind of any numbers you would assign. Um, so inside the quantitative, you have discrete variables, where it's a quantitative variable that takes a fixed set of possible values with gaps in between. So something like that would be how many siblings you have, or how many kids are in our class, right? You say 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. It's not possible to have like 2.5 kids or 3.5 kids. That's not a possible value for this. So that would be discrete. There's gaps in between the numbers. Continuous variables, on the other hand, is a quantitative variable that can take any value in an interval on the number line. So this is where like your height would be, because someone could be 6'1 1/4 inch, or 5'5" and 1/8 of an inch. You can range anywhere through that. Another really easy way to think about this is like your weight. So like if you weighed 220 pounds, well, at some point you weighed every single increment from whatever you were born at to 210 pounds. So you'd weigh 190.12, 195.35, and so forth. So you're hitting every single possible number as a possible value for this. And there'd be no gaps in like your weight or your height or things like that. So a variable generally takes values that vary, and we are interested in the pattern of that variation, right? It'd be pretty boring if every data was just the same. If it just said everyone had 2 siblings, well, that's not anything interesting. Typically that number will vary, whatever that variable is. And when you look at a big group of that variation, we call it the distribution. The distribution of a variable tells us what values the variable takes and how often those values are. So not just the range of values, but also what is more likely to happen. Maybe there's a lot of people that have 2 siblings and only a few that have 5 or 6. So Here's a little snippet of data, and we'll kind of go through it. So we could see that preferred communication would definitely be a categorical variable. It's either in person, Facebook, cell phone, or texting. And the way you describe this is a bar graph, and we'll go into more details on it. Would be a bar graph, and you can put the number of people for each category in there. For quantitative variables would be number of languages spoken, and that would be numbers, and we'd make them on a dot plot. And we'll show some other ways you can make quantitative variables. Just want to go back and say gender would be another categorical. Handedness would be another categorical. Height would be quantitative. Wrist circumference would be quantitative. And provenance would be categorical as well. Right? So just give you a little bit more ideas there. So the way we analyze data is we're going to examine each variable by itself, then study the relationship among the variables. So you start with your graph and you see, it's a nice picture. You see like, hey, it's pretty easy to see. It's like, hey, a lot of people only speak one language and only one person speaks four and a few speak two. But we can see a lot of these people speak only one or two languages. Then from there, we add what we call like our numerical summary, and we'll get more into depth in this as the year goes on. But really, the graph helps us to make like general statements like, hey, a lot of people only speak one or two languages. And then this numerical summary will help us pinpoint exactly what that is that we're trying to say and maybe give us um, quantifiers for that general statement. So descriptive statistics is kind of in the name. The process of exploring data analysis is known as descriptive statistics. And inferential statistics is a process of drawing conclusions that go beyond the data at hand. And I think there's a picture here that'll maybe help. So you have your population. This would be like everybody out there, but it's really hard to get data on every single individual. So instead of that, we take a sample. A sample, everyone's inside it. So for example, a really common example would be like, hey, our population is everybody at Naperville North High School, and our sample is going to be the students in my class. We're going to collect data from our sample. So I'm going to go around the room and ask everybody, hey, how many siblings do you have? And from there, I'm going to use that as a descriptive statistic to perform some data analysis. And I might say, hey, you know what? We found out that most of our students in my class only have two siblings. All right, then I'm going to infer that about my population. And I might say, hey, people at Naperville North High School usually only have two siblings. And that's kind of the process that we're going to go through this year. Take a sample, collect some data, analyze it, use it to make an inference. And we'll iron out more on how to make this a good process and make it more accurate, but that's kind of the general process that we'll do this year. All right. And that is it for this little intro to stats.